I'm a social worker. Yesterday I encountered a girl excited about her mother's death. My husband and I were married for just 1 year before we divorced. He was an army corporal, and was stationed in the town neighboring mine. We met at a bar, and he bought me a drink. 6 months later, we got married. Shortly thereafter, he was deployed to Afghanistan for 6 months. My fear of my husband leaving me to his potential death had materialized, and even though I was married, I felt the most intense loneliness I had ever felt. When he returned, I couldn't wait for things to get back to normal. Then, the nightmares started. At odd times of the night, he would wake up screaming at the top of his lungs, and then immediately go back to sleep. He tried to choke me in his sleep once, and grabbed a knife from his bedside locker. I didn't even know he kept one. Every morning, he'd wake up in a pool of sweat, and I had to wash his sheets daily. The weirdest thing was that in between these nightmarish episodes, he'd sleep like a baby, totally unfazed. He was unaware that he ever woke up in the first place. I, however, had gone a week without sleep, but that was okay because I genuinely felt awful for him. What really started to bother me was when he would talk in his sleep. He would wake me up by shaking me, saying we had to relocate before they found us, along with a multitude of military jargon. When my husband woke me up, it wasn't him talking. His eyes were glossy, and he was completely unresponsive towards me. He was completely detached from reality, and by extension, it started to feel like he was completely detached from me. I started to fear my husband. The demented words he would utter at night, and his cavalier attitude towards the whole ordeal really creeped me out. I feared for my life each night. One night, he began to scream again. I pretended like nothing happened, hoping to ride this episode out as I did so often. Except this time, it was different. He began to hysterically cry, asking if I was awake. This was really my husband talking, so I immediately rolled over and began to comfort him. He was blubbering like a baby, getting slobber all over me and the sheets. I wanted to feel empathy, but instead, I felt genuine disgust. I was mad that I would have to clean his sheets again. When I told him I had to get back to sleep because I had an early shift, he kept crying. He said he understood, but kept asking me to hold him. Eventually, I just pretended to fall asleep, which shut him up. The next morning, I left without any explanation. I went to my sister's house because I needed to get away from him. I couldn't look at my husband without feeling visceral hatred. A week later, I filed for divorce. I married a man, not a wimp.